Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the literally physics-defying mechanics hidden right inside those everyday plants sitting on your windowsill or lining your street. We tend to think of plants as, just static, quiet organisms soaking up the sun. But beneath the bark and under the soil, there is a roaring, invisible engine at work.
So let's just jump right into this central mystery. Think about a towering redwood or a massive oak tree. How exactly does a giant like that conquer gravity? I mean, how does it move thousands of gallons of water hundreds of feet up into the air and do it without a mechanical pump or a heart or any moving parts at all? It's honestly a masterpiece of microscopic cellular engineering. And by the end of this explainer, you'll know exactly how they pull off this magic trick.
Section 1. The thirsty plant. Now, before we look at how they defy gravity, we really need to understand the why. A plant desperately needs a massive, constant flow of water from the soil just to survive, because it does 4 vital jobs. First up is photosynthesis. See, water isn't just a drink for plants, it's a raw material. It combines with carbon dioxide to actually manufacture the plant's food. Second is transpiration. A huge amount of water simply evaporates from the leaves to act as a built-in cooling system on hot days. Third is transportation. Think of water as a superhighway, carrying dissolved minerals from the roots all the way up and sending sugars back down. And finally, mechanical stiffness. Water is the literal skeleton of the plant, keeping the whole thing firm and upright.
Section 2. Root hair superpowers. Knowing how desperately they need all that water, let's look at how roots are perfectly adapted to soak it up. And seriously, prepare to have your mind blown by this stat. Back in 1937, botanist H.J. Dittmer did this awe-inspiring study where his team carefully examined a single 4-month-old rye plant. Just one small plant. They found it had roughly 14 billion microscopic root hairs. 14 billion! If you took all the root hairs from this one little plant and laid them end to end, they'd stretch over 10,000 kilometers. That is a staggering network, all designed for one single purpose, touching as much dirt as physically possible.
So what gives them this superpower? Well, it really comes down to 3 things. First, as we just saw, that absolutely massive surface area. Second, the incredibly thin outer walls of these hairs. They're perfectly permeable, letting water just slip right in. And third, the secret weapon. These tiny hairs contain cell sap that has a much higher concentration of salts than the surrounding dirt. That high concentration acts like a chemical magnet, just constantly pulling outside water inward.
Section 3. The rules of absorption.
But how exactly does that root hair magnet actually work? To get this, we need to draw a hard line between diffusion and osmosis. Diffusion is pretty simple. It's the free movement of molecules from an area where they're really crowded to an area where they have more space, until everything balances out. Think of dropping a drop of food coloring into a glass of water, right? It just spreads. But osmosis acts like a cellular bouncer. It is strictly the movement of water molecules from a high concentration to a lower one, but, and this is the key, it absolutely must happen through a semi-permeable membrane. That membrane lets the water through, but blocks the larger dissolved stuff.
And this perfectly illustrates why that distinction is absolutely crucial. Take a look at the top row. That is an animal cell, like a red blood cell. If you drop it into a hypotonic solution, which basically just means pure, highly concentrated water, water rushes into the cell through osmosis until pop. The fragile animal cell literally bursts. But now look at the plant cell on the bottom. It swells up with water too, but no pop. Why? Because plants have a rigid, tough outer cell wall that pushes back, completely protecting that delicate membrane inside.
But wait, what happens if the plant needs to absorb a specific mineral from the soil, but the concentration inside the root is already higher than it is outside? Natural diffusion is basically useless there. The mineral would flow in the wrong direction. That is where active transport steps in. Basically, the plant has to flex its muscles. It burns cellular energy, specifically ATP, to forcefully carry those essential minerals inward, fighting against the natural concentration gradient. It's essentially swimming upstream to get exactly what it needs.
Section 4. Turgor, the cellular skeleton.
So, once all that water actually makes it inside the plant cells through osmosis, what does it actually do? Well, it builds the plant's literal skeleton. We call this state turgidity. The easiest way to picture this is a balloon in a box. Imagine the cell's delicate inner plasma membrane is a water balloon, and the tough, rigid outer cell wall is a sturdy cardboard box. As osmosis draws water in, the balloon inflates. It presses outward, really hard against the inside of the box. The box doesn't break, but the entire structure becomes incredibly tight, rigid, and strong. That internal water pressure? That is what we call turgor pressure. Now let's see what happens when we reverse it. If a plant loses more water through evaporation than its roots can pull in, that balloon inside the box deflates. The scientific term for this shrinking is plasmolysis, and the cell becomes flaccid. And when millions of these microscopic cells lose their turgor pressure all at once, the leaves droop, the stem bends, and the whole plant just visibly wilts right in front of you.
Actually, for an incredible real-world example of this, check out the Mimosa pudica, better known as the sensitive plant. If you just lightly touch its leaves, it triggers this sudden, stimulated loss of turgor pressure right at the base of the leaflets. Water rushes out of those specific cells, the tiny balloons deflate, and the entire leaf dramatically folds up in seconds. It is a beautifully rapid, visible demonstration of the raw mechanical power of cellular water pressure.
Section 5. Defying gravity.
Okay, so bringing it back to our main mystery, how do these microscopic forces team up to push water all the way to the top of a giant forest canopy? Well, it starts right down in the roots. As water moves continuously from the dirt into the root hair and then passes from one cell to the next through osmosis, it builds up a massive hydrostatic force. We call this root pressure. It's kind of like a huge crowd of people pushing their way into a packed hallway. The pressure at the door just forces everyone else forward. This root pressure gives the water its very first powerful upward shove into the base of the stem. And we know exactly where that water goes, thanks to elegant little experiments like this one. If you place a plant's roots in a pink dye called eosin solution for a few hours, and then slice open the stem and leaves, you prove something really vital. The whole stem doesn't turn pink. No, only very specific central vertical channels are stained. Those specialized, microscopic pipes are called xylem vessels, and they act as the dedicated upward water highways for the entire plant.
Inside those tiny xylem pipes, there are 4 cumulative forces acting together like a massive, invisible conveyor belt. First, root pressure is pushing up from the bottom. Second is capillarity. Because these xylem tubes are so incredibly narrow, the water naturally wants to climb up the sides. Third is transpirational pull, acting from the top. As water evaporates from the leaves, it creates a vacuum that literally pulls more water up to replace it. And fourth, adhesion and cohesion keep the whole shebang tied together.
I actually love this quote from the source material because it grounds all this wild physics in something really familiar. Think about a heavy coconut sitting way up high in a palm tree. Every single drop of water inside it, it came from the ground. The secret to getting it up there is cohesion. See, water molecules absolutely love to stick together. So as evaporation pulls a single water molecule out of a leaf at the top, cohesion ensures it drags the molecule right beneath it and the one beneath that, forming an unbroken continuous chain of water hundreds of feet into the air.
It really is a total marvel of nature. So the next time you walk past a towering tree, I really want you to look at it differently. It's not just sitting there. Just beneath the bark, there's a silent, roaring waterfall flowing in reverse, lifting thousands of gallons of water into the sky using absolutely nothing but microscopic cellular pressure and the heat of the sun. Which kind of makes you wonder, if plants are doing this right in front of us, what other silent, spectacular physics are shaping the natural world around us right now? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking questions, and I'll catch you next time.